What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Real Sports Science Podcast. My name's David, PhD student at Loughborough University.
And I'm Matt, head strength and conditioning coach within rugby. David, what are we doing here?
Yeah, good question, Matt. Well, we started this podcast to share the highs and the lows of our journey as we start careers as sports science practitioners.
That's right, and we are excited for all of you to be side by side with us through all the mud, sweat, and unpaid volunteer placements.
Yeah, Matt, that sounds personal. But hey, it's not just us. We've got some amazing guests that come onto the podcast as well.
We'll be getting their perspective and learning from their experiences to help us grow in our developing careers and in our current roles.
Yeah, that's right. So hey, if that's up your alley or you just want to come and learn alongside us, we'd love to have you come along.
So whether for the first time or not, welcome to the RSS podcast.
Let's go.
Welcome to episode 3 of the RSS podcast, this being the series goal setting. Okay, and today we've got Ben Bisset to join us with. So we met at Loughborough, met at rugby, and became very good friends, started gymming together, and yeah, just lost touch, but now we're connecting up again. He's currently doing his placement at Doncaster Knights as a performance analyst, and yeah, he's currently learning what it's like to have a nice little placement that's also working alongside it. And yeah, safe to say he's at the start of his career. So yeah, I'm sure we're going to learn a lot more about goal setting in his sort of environment. So yeah, Ben, how are you?
Good, Matthew. Thank you for having me. Yeah, Matt's been pestering me to get me on the pod for a while. I found a bit of time in my schedule and I said, yeah, let's do it.
Oh, sure. I just had to find any sort of topic that we could include Ben in. I was like, okay, we can't do high performance because definitely not high performance. It's going to have to be something.
What? So I listened to last week's episode, and I thought that's quite a drop off in level. You had a guy raising thousands of pounds for his friend and for a really good charity. 12 marathons in 12 days. And then the next one, let's get a guy who doesn't get paid for his job on. You know what I mean?
Well, just do 12 marathons in 12 days. You can raise some funds then.
Yeah.
Ben, you could do 12 placements in 12 years, 12 unpaid placements in 12 years.
I was going to say, it's taken so long.
Yeah. Zero money raised, Matt.
It's taken so long to get you on because since when has it been since you've had a free day off? No days off. Takes another meeting on placements.
Yeah, not many.
But yeah, take us through like essentially how you got here to this stage, and then we'll pick it apart later. So give yourself an introduction.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously I'm on my placement year, so I've had 2 years in Loughborough. My course is officially geography and sports science. So when I was looking for a placement, I sort of had a choice between geography placements, and there's quite a lot in sort of with sustainability and stuff in like big companies are trying to be more green and stuff. So there's quite a lot of roles in that. So initially, I was more focused on those sort of ones because they were all paid, obviously. So I was sort of applying for these ones that were paid, and didn't get anywhere with that. And then eventually, I thought, right, I'll apply for some sport ones, which, to be fair, I was much more interested in anyway. When I was looking at the application process, those sort of ones got me more excited anyway. But obviously, the fact that they were unpaid is off-putting at first. So yeah, I applied for a bunch of them. I didn't just apply for performance analysis ones. I applied for sports science ones. I applied for S&C ones. I applied for all sorts. And I had a few interviews, or video interviews, they all do them differently. And then ended up with this one, so performance analysis at Doncaster Knights. So they're a professional rugby team, second division, like RFU Championship. But they're like there's only 2 fully professional teams in the Championship, and we're one of them. So. And yeah, so it's been good so far. But yeah, challenge the challenge of an unpaid placement
Yeah.
Is this your first
is
experience of
is
a
interesting.
placement ever?
Yeah. I've done like work experience and stuff, but it's completely different doing a placement where you're essentially working part-time, full-time.
Is that the
And
biggest?
yeah,
Is that the biggest
expected
difference?
to do it. It's
Right.
more professional. You're expected to do a job. Like you have deadlines to hit. You have people to please. Like you have to do a certain do work to a certain standard. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, more is expected of you, I guess. Yeah.
And just a quick thing from me is just I remember you speaking about you wanted to travel abroad. Like I remember you applied for that one place in Australia, was it?
Yeah, I applied for. There's a gym in Melbourne who they work with all sorts of athletes like tennis. It's a private gym, but they sort of work with athletes from all sorts of backgrounds, and they've done a lot of work with like NRL teams and stuff. And so I applied over there because they had an internship. It was like a summer one, so I messaged a guy over there or applied to that, and I tried to do sort of a study exchange and work out there. But that one would have just didn't quite work out. Just the study exchange aspect of it, like it didn't work out with the uni, and also like an unpaid placement's hard enough, but doing it on the other side of the world and having to pay there and back is maybe a bit too much, a bit too ambitious maybe. But yeah, that was interesting, and it would have been interesting to go out there, but
Yeah.
that one didn't come through.
And just I was just wondering because like as many of you know, I went to New Zealand, and
We're gonna start
I
keeping
always thought like,
start keeping a
Sick.
tally of how many times you bring that up on the podcast.
and over my time there, right, it was quite interesting. No, and basically I just going over there, I always thought like, you could get a placement here, unpaid with a team here, or you could travel across the country. It's more expensive, but I wonder if there's like a employers look for, oh, actually he's gone out there to get a different environment entirely. I wonder if there's like a bigger shine over international placements rather than one here. Like that's just me just genuinely
Yeah,
thinking.
quite possibly as well. Because and also the guy when I applied, the guy who runs the gym out there, he was really keen to make it happen. Just almost because he'd seen that I've applied from the UK. He said he's not had an applicant from the UK before, and the fact that you were sort of willing to try and make that happen, he was kind of keen to make that happen, almost just because of that. So yeah, I suppose in a sense, yeah, maybe it is looked upon differently. I don't know.
Yeah, because Jesse, another one of my
Um,
mates, Jesse Holloway, he's out there with Athletes Authority in Australia.
Oh, I see them on Instagram
Uh,
all the time.
yeah,
Jesse,
Jesse's out.
what? Best Jesse,
Yeah, Jesse's out.
Jim Van.
Jesse's out there.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh
and
man,
Well, Matt
yeah,
made
but
it
then
to
it's like,
Australia, so anything is possible.
get him on the pod. You need him on the pod at some point.
yeah. Yeah, actually, to be fair, I'll drop him a
Sorry,
message. Could do something on there.
he should be on instead of me. He should have been on
Oh, mate, we
first.
tried, but time difference. He probably would have got on time though, even though the time
Oh,
difference, hey. Um, but yeah, no. And then one thing I wanted to say was like, was it always your decision to go into performance analysis, essentially? Like I know you spoke about sports science. What made you choose performance analysis? Was it just that it's the one that came back, not in a cruel way, but like, is it the one that answered back to you, or?
yeah. Yeah, no. So as I say, I applied to a bunch of different ones that were all sort of in the same area. So S&C ones, sports science ones, as you say, and performance analysis ones. The ones I had, I think three or four came back to me, and they were all the performance analysis ones. So I had an interview with West Ham Women. There was a few other ones, and so just the way it happened, like depending on which ones get back to you, you sort of just end up applying for those ones. So yeah, performance analysis was the one I had the most success with, and so it made the most sense, I suppose, to apply for that one and go for that down that route. Sorry, that's my housemate.
L-
Yes, Joe. Have you seen my text, Joe? Look at your phone,
This
Joe.
is the first. This is the first.
Yeah, mate.
Get him on. Get him in. Get him involved.
He wanted on, you know. I sent him a text. Oh no, I didn't. You know when you've written out a text.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know when you've written it out, you think you've sent it.
Yeah. Nice. I think Matt.
This
did
is
that.
the level of guest I bring.
Matt, you did that to me like
you
3
keep-
days
you
ago.
keep-
I think. Last week you did that. You're like, oh, I had this.
Keep it in. The fans want it. Yeah.
Looking
no.
But yeah, no,
back on
shocked
the
that.
placements, I guess because first two-parter question of the pod.
Oh no, here we go.
Because obviously, like,
I need to write down
Yeah,
part
yeah,
one,
yeah.
do I?
Make sure you-
Right, part
Don't
2
forget.
first, and then part 1. That's how it works.
Okay.
Yeah, get a flow chart going. No, because you said that you like applied to geography first, and then different S&C, and then this is the one that came back. Like, I guess how did you feel going into this one, knowing that kind of you tried other things and it didn't work, and then you had this sweet opportunity possibly over on the other side of the world, but that didn't work. Like, did you kind of feel like excited for the opportunity, but also a bit like, like it's too bad that I didn't get those other ones?
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yes and no. I mean, I'd been applying. I think it's something that a lot of people go through. Like, placements are pushed quite a lot at Loughborough in particular. So everyone, you know, at the beginning of your second year, everyone starts applying really early on. And so I know people who did hundreds of applications and only got like a few interviews, and you know they eventually get one. But it's really difficult. Like, you apply to loads and loads, but it's so competitive, and you only get a few opportunities. So I think once you start getting into the way of doing the applications and getting used to the rejections of all the applications, I think I didn't apply to as many as other people, but I applied to 50 plus across, you know, geography ones, sport ones, and yeah, so you kind of get used to ones coming back, you know, mostly negative, and then some positive ones, getting some interviews. And as I say, that was partially why I've ended up where I ended up, because most of the positive ones that came back were performance analysis style type
And I guess
ones. So
that's kind of
and I wouldn't say I was disappointed. Like, obviously there were certain ones that when you apply, you're really excited for them. But you've just got to take, you know, you get the cards dealt as they are, and you know you've just got to deal with them. And yeah, you can't dwell on it too much. So I'm as happy where I am now. There's other opportunities that might have been good as well, but yeah, it is what it is, and you just got to work away.
And since joining performance analysis, are you happy with your decision? Like, are you, even though it's struggling, are you happy with your decision? And then second parter, second parter, right? Second parter,
Slow
are you
down.
happy with your decision? Second, what are your roles and responsibilities at Doncaster?
Yeah, so yeah, I would say I'm happy with my responsibility, happy with my decision. I'm trying not to pigeonhole myself too much either, though. It's sort of a case of I'm doing this performance analysis placement, and that it might be something I want to go into in the future, but I don't want to think of myself, you know, as a performance analyst yet, and only in that way. I'm sort of trying to view it as I'm in this elite environment doing performance analysis, but I'm getting experience of different coaches, how they coach. You see behind the scenes, you see how everything works, you see how the S&C lads operate, you see them, how they use the GPS monitors and stuff. You're getting experience of all of it, not just the performance analysis stuff. So I'm happy with this decision I've made, but I'm trying not to sort of pigeonhole myself too much in a sense. And my responsibilities, so during the week we obviously film everything they do, training wise, and then we clip everything up. So it's, for the backs, it'll be their set plays, their moves. For the forwards, it's line out scrums, set piece mostly. We have to do, for the forwards, we code up the jumps in the lineouts and all their scrums and mauls, and then we pass that information on to the S&C lads so that they have a understanding of how much loads on the players, so they can adjust their sort of programs accordingly, or training for later in the week. If they have a big session on a Tuesday, Thursday will normally be a bit more relaxed so that they're still fresh when they go into the weekend, that sort of thing. So we clip all of that up. And so during the week it's a bit more relaxed, and then on a Saturday I code there's two placement students. There's myself and Joe, my housemate, who you almost met. So he codes the backs and he does all their individuals. So it's like if a scrum half makes a pass, you have a button for that player, and then you go pass, plus, negative, whatever. And so it's all the individual clips for each player. So he does the backs, I do the forwards. Wow. And then on top of that, we do like opposition analysis. So again, he stays with the backs, I do the forwards, and I'll do a pack, I'll give the coaches like a playlist 2 weeks before a game with all the lineouts and scrums of the team we're going to play, and like the key stats or key players to look out for, or they do this setup more than others, that sort of thing.
That's really
and sort of that's
cool.
That's the interesting bit. Yeah, that's the interesting bit, I think, is actually the opposition analysis. And the quite good thing for us as well, the other main responsibility we get given as interns is the academy. So they've got an academy here that play in one of the Bucks leagues. I'm not sure which one. It's like North 3 or something. Okay. And so it's a university league, and so it's the age range in that team's sort of between 18 to 23, sort of basically your university age. But we sort of take a lead on that, so it's just us running that. So we do sort of more general match codes as well, and stats. So we work a bit more closely with the coaches for the academy, and we sort of get a bit more of a coach analyst relationship there, and do more wide ranging stats rather than just the individuals like we do for the first team. So yeah, it's quite wide ranging, and it is quite a lot of responsibility, given that without us doing what we do, the analyst at the club, who that's his job, couldn't do his job. So without trying to big yourself up, for someone who's not paid, we're quite important. But
it's pretty cool.
But that's what you want, I suppose. Yeah. That's what you want from a placement. You want to be given that responsibility.
And it's cool because you're getting, like you said, where is everyone seeing those balloons that just came up on my screen?
Yeah.
What was that about?
Oh, happy birthday, David!
Happy birthday, David!
It's not my birthday, I promise. That happens once in a while because I'm using my iPhone as like a webcam, and I haven't figured it out yet.
I wonder if it pops up.
Sometimes if I like do a hand motion, these balloons pop out of nowhere. That's crazy. But what was that's a sidetrack. It is real. I didn't realize that you do so much, which is like what you said is crazy for these two unpaid, third-year students to have all this responsibility. But also cool because you get the ins and outs of so many different things. Like even if you went on to go be an S&C coach, and now you're asking the analyst, like the ins and outs of what that analyst could give you. So it's not like the analyst trying to explain, like, actually, I know what I want. Can you get me this? Or like if you become a coach because you've studied, like different ways that teams operate or offenses and defenses. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think more coaches, to be honest, if they understood a bit more about it, they would, they would probably treat it a bit differently, or they'd come at it from a different angle. And so yeah, I think it's a good thing.
You're gonna be.
It's just a good thing for a more rounded approach.
You're gonna end up being like Brad Pitt in Moneyball. In like.
I'll take that. Yeah. No, it's not. Is it Brad Pitt? It's not Brad Pitt though. He's not the stat man. It's Jonah.
Yeah, you're gonna be like Jonah Hill.
I'd rather.
Yeah.
I'd rather be like Brad Pitt. Though.
I'll take Brad Pitt.
He had the idea. You need to find Jonah Hill.
Nothing against Jonah Hill,
right.
though. Nothing
he's
against
the
Jonah
numbers
Hill.
guy, but I think I'd rather be. I think against Jonah Hill, but he's not bad.
So good. So good. Yeah, and essentially, it'll be okay. We'll get into like goal setting now. So the topic is goal setting, and I think one thing to bring up as you're at the start of your career, little fresh face right now. You're getting into it. You're enjoying an unpaid placement. You're loving it. You're loving the hard graft, and yeah, I just want to say, this is like a job interview question. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
That's a good question, Matt. When Matt first phoned me to ask me to do the podcast, he says to me, yeah, I'll be really relaxed. It'll be like a conversation. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. And then he sort of goes, yeah, I'll ask you a few questions. It'll be a bit like a job interview. So it's like, which one is it? Nice conversation or job interview? 5 years. I'm not quite sure. I've said it quite broad. I'd like to work in an environment where sort of elite performance is at the forefront. So whether that's in rugby or any other sport, or even outside of sport, but still where sort of physical endeavour is, at the front. So whether that's outdoor pursuits or whatever. So I've said it quite broad in that sense, but it allows me to not, as I said before, not pigeonhole myself too much and still view what I'm doing at the moment as transferable. But yeah, I want to be working and getting paid for doing something in the elite performance space.
Have you learned something in how long have you been doing the placement now? Since September?
This is 12th year.
Since
12th year.
No. Yeah. I think I'd have a few more lines on my face if it was my 12th year, Matt. I'd look a bit more like you. I might have some facial hair. I've been growing this for 12 years.
It's looking good.
Thanks, yeah. What was the question?
I asked when you started. And then...
Why can't you grow facial hair?
Facial hair. I was going to ask, have you learned something in however many months you've been doing this now that you didn't think I've written off data analyst or whatever, but actually I quite like it, or some other aspect? Have you learned something about an aspect in sport performance, whatever that is, that you didn't think you would have?
Yeah, so I started in July, so I've been doing it just over 6 months. And the interesting thing about it, I mean, you learn a lot because when I first started, obviously I study sports science at uni, but I've no experience. That no one who does this sort of placement has any experience of doing anything similar beforehand, really, unless they've maybe worked at a club before or done some work experience. But so I'd never done anything performance analysis related. So everything I've learned since has been new to me, essentially. And so I guess almost everything I've learned on the performance analysis side has been new. And yeah, I wouldn't say it's even swung me either way. Like, I enjoy what I do and I find it interesting. And I'm not sure if anything's sort of surprised me too much. Like, just seeing in behind, like the thing with rugby, I think, as someone who's watched it and been a fan for a long time, is you only really watch when the professionals play, you watch them play on a match day, and you always hear them say in interviews, they go like the hard work's been done, but we just need to perform on the Saturday. But I don't think you ever really get a full understanding of that until you've sort of seen it. Like a Saturday feels it's almost relaxed. It's just like, right, this is Saturday. We know what happens on a Saturday. Whereas like during the week, that's when all the ups and downs go on. There are injuries, the fights at training, or things go wrong or things go right. Like you never know what's going to happen in training, and you never know how the week's going to go. And so that's quite an interesting thing to see and to have to manage when you're there. I guess just seeing in behind the scenes and seeing how an environment like that operates is interesting. Something different.
Yeah, that is cool. And you're
And
getting a huge behind the scenes look. That's really cool. Sorry, Matt.
and good. And yeah, so like one thing just on the topic of goal setting once again is just looking at sort of different methods that we spoke about in our research and introduction to this topic. Goal setting can be used in various different ways. Like our last podcast, it was with Bruno. There you go. Um, Josh, who was actually like saying how he uses it with his clients, how he can actually use it with himself. But one thing we didn't get to touch upon was obviously we saw the journey through his career, but like what his next steps would be, or career-wise, what are his career goals? And I think it's great to be able to touch upon someone who's in your position because we can understand what you look forward in those 5 years, for example, or if you can use any of those sort of goal-setting goals in a career perspective, because I know once starting out, I sort of knew, okay, I want to be in sport. Coming out from school, I was like, I want to be in sport. Then after 3 years, I was like, okay, after my second year or during my second year of sports science degree, I was like, I want to do S&C. I enjoyed one particular
Yeah.
module. So I was like, okay, I want to do S&C. What's the next step for that? Okay, and you going through that, I always had to make those. I know the SMART goals are cringy, and it's like, oh, those are the best methods. But I had to make sort of ones like that. What was my end goal? How do I track back from that? What are the next steps to take? And I remember thinking, okay, S&C, what's the environment like? Going into Loughborough, you thought, okay, we're at the top university. We were always told once you're at uni here, once you complete the degree, jobs will fall for you like that. Even placements was hard to get whilst I was at Loughborough though. So it was like, oh, so this is getting a bit crazy because everyone wanted the performance placements with Loughborough's first rugby team or first football team, depending on what sport you're in. And getting to that stage, I couldn't get to that stage. So it was a bit of a first foot like, oh, wow. So once you hit that rejection, it was like, okay, this is crazy. So how do you come back from that? And as you said, like you heard back from rejections, but the thing is you still got to keep applying and whatever comes back, you got to take it. And if you enjoy it, then bloody great, because then you can sort of start to get an inkling of actually maybe this is what I want to do. And maybe not 5 years, but say if Doncaster turned around and say if they turned around and gave you a job, or you saw something, maybe no, you weren't getting any performance analysis jobs returned like from your applications, you weren't hearing back from them, but maybe there was an S&C job, would you be quick to jump onto that one, or would you continue to look for that performance analysis? Going through this stage of your career, has it sort of honed your mindset in where it wants to be? I know you previously touched upon how it's still quite broad, but like if something
Yeah.
if an opportunity like that came across, would you take it?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. So obviously, I've got the experience. Everything on you'll know, Matt. Everything on the applications you make, it's all about experience. It's like you don't have enough experience. That's why we're not taking you for this role. So I've now got experience doing performance analysis at a club. But if I got offered an S&C role somewhere, I wouldn't have that experience. So I don't know if they'd then be willing to pay me, or would I have to get unpaid? Like it feels like you have to get unpaid experience to do any role.
So then, sorry, do you feel sort of trapped to now be like, okay, I've spent a year doing Doncaster performance analysis. Could I guess Doncaster would see that you're also understanding the S&C side, but would you have to be like, okay, crap, I'm trapped now. I've got to do, if I want to do anything else, I have to go through another year of unpaid placement essentially.
Yeah, I a little bit maybe. It's all situational, I suppose. Like as I said before, I'm trying not to pigeonhole myself, but sometimes you end up just getting pigeonholed, maybe just by the way that it works. If you're not going to get offered a paid job in another area, then why not stick to what you've end up like? Performance analysis now is where I have that's where I've developed the skills, and so if I was to go somewhere, I'm more likely, obviously, to get paid for the job that I know how to do. So it would make sense that I'm almost trapped, as you would put it. I wouldn't. If Doncaster offered me like a job, for example, the way my boss, the analyst at Doncaster, thinks about it is he said to me, "Well, you've got 10 teams in the Premiership, like the top league of English rugby, and they maybe have one or two analysts, depending on the club." So he was saying, and he's at Doncaster, one of two fully pro teams in the Championship. So he's probably in the top 20 analysts in the country. And so when you put it in that perspective, then I think that's quite a good way of thinking about it, because quite a lot, obviously, in the Championship, no one's paid to a great extent, whether it's players or staff. They're not paid like Saracens staff or players. Do you know what I mean? But when you start thinking of yourself as an elite in your area, you're thinking, I'm top 20 in the country, even though it might not feel like it. It's quite a good way of thinking about it. So if I was offered a job at Doncaster, I think if I thought of it in that way, it would maybe change my mindset on things. I think you can get too fixated on the money side of things, and so that would be a good opportunity. Obviously, I'd like to get experience in other areas of sport in S&C and give myself options. But you just got to see what happens, see what comes up.
I think as well, like you're so early in your career, too. A couple things that came to mind with my role with BA. I spend quite a bit of time, like outside of my PhD, giving like physiology support to their athletes. So I spend a lot of time with the head physiologist, Andy, and he says often like the way things are going now, you need to be like kind of the expert in your field, whatever that is. And I think with some fields you might need to be the expert more than others. But what he says is if you, or like people now more and more, or companies now more and more, organizations are looking for people who can give more than just their specific field, right? So if you come in, say for example, an S&C role, like you're looking for S&C role, like I have this experience in S&C, but also I have this experience in data analytics or this experience in this area. So just because maybe down the road you want to be an S&C coach or coach or whatever, just because like right now you're getting experience not directly in that, I don't think is a bad thing. And then if I think about like my own career kind of progression to where I am now, like my master's thesis was on football boots, which like it was cool, but it was nothing like I knew like this isn't really what I want to do. I don't want to research like football boot technology or like sporting equipment technology, like the foundation or the growing of that's not really what I want to do. But I did it, and because I had to, and it was really cool. And then off of that, I got a job as a research assistant, doing the exact same thing. So doing research on football boots is almost the exact same thing. So again, it's like kind of in what Matt was asking, like, oh, because you have this placement, you're going to get data analyst jobs, and that was similar for me because I had my master's in football boots. Now I've got a job after that in football boots. But now I'm doing a PhD in nothing to do with like sport footwear, which isn't what I wanted to do anyways. But for me, like looking back now on that experience was phenomenal. The stuff I learned in that research assistant job was phenomenal. And the only reason I got that is because of like my master's. And even though it had nothing to do with kind of what I wanted to do long term, I think when you're that like even in the master's kind of that early in your career compared to like, working for 30, 40 years, I think what you're doing is really cool because you have such an opportunity to learn so many different things, which I think like it won't pigeonhole you at all. Maybe short term it does.
Yeah.
Maybe the next job you get is a data analyst job because you're able to get that. But I feel the higher you go, like the less, as long as you have the staple requirements, like the less important it is, like your direct experiences. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. And that's sort of how I'm trying to look at it, is that you don't know what's going to happen or how you're going to... If I go back to what I said before, like my long-term goal is just to work somewhere where elite performance is at the centre. So keeping that broad, it doesn't really matter in what role. So if I go into another performance analysis role, then that's great. And if I end up working in an elite environment doing performance analysis, then I've reached my goal. Or I end up doing it in another capacity and then it diverges off, like sort of what you were saying. Like things lead to different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows?
Yeah. So what's the other job that you're doing
I think
now?
Sorry. As well. Yeah. So I was working 2 jobs up until very recently. So I was working at Mountain Warehouse, and I was working. I do marketing at a property company as well on the side, just to fund myself, I suppose.
So 2 jobs, like 2 part-time jobs, plus like how many hours are you doing your placement?
We tried to work it out at one point. We tried to work out how many hours we were doing a week. It was, I don't know, it's 70 odd. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, but the thing is as well, it's with the rugby, or just, I don't know, it'd be the same with all sports, but the hours are just different as well. It's not a 9 to 5. Like on a Saturday, you'll finish the game, and the coaches will want those stats turned around as quickly as possible. So you'll be working like late into the evening trying to finish your code so that can then be turned into the stats for the coaches the next day as soon as possible, sort of thing. So it's different.
I was gonna say no sport job is 9 to 5, or even if they say it's a 40-hour week.
Yeah.
Well,
I was gonna say that as well. It's like 37 and a half hours a week, and then right underneath that, it's like maybe required to work. What is it? Out of office hours,
weekends, or out of office hours.
Yeah.
And then it's like it's quite hectic. Like I remember first starting my job at Tunbridge, I saw the work hours. It said 40, and then I remember like walking around with director of sport, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, so start at 9, finish at 6." I was like, "Oh yeah," and then I was like, "Is this every day?" And then he goes, "No. Well, you'll finish like half day on Saturday." So, 6 days. Okay. But like it works out in a way, but like you go home and you're still doing work. But I guess that's every job.
He says half day Saturday, like that's making up for the 9 to 6 Monday to Friday. It's like, is that no.
But then
Saturday's
it's weird because
only half day. What?
But I do get a mean lunch. A mean feed at lunch, eh? So that's all good.
That's the best thing. That's the best thing about working at the rugby club. Is all the meals.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
What's it?
So healthy as well.
What's it been like with the guys as well? Like, do you have a lot of interaction with the guys, or like how much kind of on field stuff, or like when you're eating? I don't know if that's like in a big.
Yeah, he does.
Like, what's that been like?
Nah. You don't have as much. Like the physios, for example, they'll all be strapping up the physio interns will be strapping up the players or whatever before the game, so they'll have much more like one-to-one interaction with the players. We don't have a lot of that. You're almost like the little guy away in the room, like bent over the computer. So there's less of that. It depends more on like how proactive the players are on like finding out, seeing their clips or like finding out their stats. Like And some players are more approachable than others. Like they'll come up, chat to you, whatever. And some just like to keep their space. But yeah, you're not so much involved like on that sense. Like you don't go near the pitch. You stay up in the stand during the match, that sort of thing. But
have you had a moment where the players come to you and asked for stats, like, oh, can I have this? And you're able to be like, oh yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
And then you got to tell him he sucked or something. I don't know.
Not specifically. You more get coaches coming and they want to see certain clips of certain things so that they can take that to the players. Do you know what's interesting though, that I'd never thought of before, and I don't know if I should say this, but they all renew their contracts, or they have their contracts looked at in like January. So all the players like towards like December, late November, like early January, they'll start like coming to you for clips so that they can show the coaches and be like, look at all this good stuff I've done. Basically,
they just
and be like, give me another year or give me some more money or whatever.
Ben's just hiding away.
Trying to pull up. Don't cut me. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Yeah, how much are you gonna pay me for these clips, eh? I'll fudge some numbers for you.
50p a clip, mate. Yeah.
Dodgy clips.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Dodgy clips, man.
Oh. The last question I have is like, so you're 6 months in to the placement, and you have 6 months left, so kind of halfway point. Yeah. What would you say, because we're talking about goal setting, like if you think about your goals to get out of these next 6 months, what would those goals be? Kind of what position do you want to be putting yourself in? What things do you want to learn over these next 6 months?
Yeah. So it's a good question, because as I said at the start, when I first started, obviously, if you'd asked me that question then, I wouldn't have really known what to goal set for the next 6 months then, because I hadn't done the role at all. So I've almost had to tick off goals in hindsight, if that makes sense. From like the last 6 months, I've had to go back through it, because at points you can forget how much you learned. But it's actually for the uni, I have to do some stuff for my placement, for my tutor and stuff. So you have to go back through and like say a couple things that you've done. So you're almost ticking off goals in hindsight. So you're going and you're sort of reflecting on how much you've actually learned, which then makes setting goals for the next 6 months a bit easier, because you're going, right, I've learned this much in this area. That's then an area where I can push on again for the next 6 months. So I suppose for the next 6 months, it would probably be, I guess, because a lot of the season's gone, like as I said with the academy, we take a bit more of a lead with that, and sort of narrowing down. This is going to get really nerdy and really moneyball-y now, but like actually narrowing down what stats are like the most important to look at in terms of which stats have we done really well in when they've won a game, which stats have stood out, and so which areas are the most sort of game winning, if that makes sense. And then you can go, this is where we've not quite been at it for the last 6 months, but if we focus enough in this area, then that'll win us games, because that's what the stats are showing. And you can almost look back at the last 6 months and look at the data that we've got now, and then use that to help you for the next sort of rest of the season. And it's the same with opposition stuff as well. Now that you've got all the bank of games that they've played so far this season, it makes the analysis for that a lot easier, because you can start looking at different sort of things. Like you can look at something that our boss has asked us to do recently is we're splitting up the workload, and we're all going to look at different teams and how they score, where most of their tries come from. So do they come from open play? Do they come from mauls? Do they come from scrum set plays, etc.? So, and because half the season's been played, you can get a really good picture of, well, they score most of their tries off a kick return, for example. So it's like, right, where we need to really focus on kick return defence for this. And so you're getting more of a narrowed in picture, which is really interesting. So
that's really cool.
or it is to
Yeah,
some
no,
people.
that's really cool. That is
So
100% Moneyball, isn't it? Like, as long as we don't let this many number of tries come from Matt sleeping, I think it's cool. Yeah, no, that is really cool, and that's kind of exciting because it's like almost
Yeah.
investigative work, isn't it? Like being able to see how
Yeah.
kind of and it's cool because you have 6 months of data that you can kind of look back. And is there anything like any experiences that you personally want to get out of kind of the next 6 months that now looking back you think, oh, actually that's an area that whether it's like, I don't know, in physio or S&C or whatever kind of experiences in general that you would want to get more of?
Yeah, I think maybe understanding a bit more of like maybe what they do, actually just speaking to them a bit more, because at the start you're trying to keep to yourself. You don't want to branch out too much, be too much of a sort of loudmouth or a keen bean. So yeah, like Matt here, he's too keen. Get we need you on the pod. But
leave me alone.
So yeah, I guess just speak to them a bit more. Like I was saying before as well, I'd be more interested to see actually exactly what they use. The load stuff that we give them, that says how much work the lads have been doing. I'd be interested to see what they actually use that for, and what adjustments they make based off the information we give them. Which isn't, believe it or not, you'd think it would be a question I would have already asked, but it's things like that would be interesting to find out, and just get a bit more insight into what everyone else does.
Well, that first 6 months must just be a whirlwind because you're trying to get caught up with everything you got to do. You're not trying to step on everyone's toes. Like, you're in a professional environment. You don't know what's okay to ask or what's not. So, but now that you know, it's like, no, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think as well to start just in it's probably the same in most pro sports, but like pro rugby in particular, you need to gain enough respect by doing your job properly before you sort of go out and start poking other people. Be like, what's this? What's this?
Just give me the stats from last week, Ben, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's sweet.
Do your job first.
No, we really appreciate you coming on. It's been really cool. Like, cause when was it? We had Jack on a few weeks ago, and he's kind of come through the placement, had his placements, had his time kind of in the trenches, and now has a full-time job. So it's cool getting his perspective of kind of coming through it. And so it's been really cool getting your perspective of someone who's not only done it, but like is in the middle of it. And kind of what you're learning, how you're finding it, how you got it. So no, that's really cool. Appreciate you finally giving in to the bean, the keen bean.
No, it's been amazing having you on, and it's been interesting to see you, because we always talk about people who've made it through the trenches or made it through those unpaid placements, but we never hear from someone who's actually going through it right now, and how difficult it is working 2 other jobs at the same time, as well as trying to turn those stats around pronto. It's interesting, but the main thing that I took from it, here's some advice, is you just got to keep at it. Obviously, like, just as you said, ask those questions. That was good to hear from you. The fact that you were like, oh, I've learned that I'm going to start asking all these more questions, and it's very, very good. Instead of you asking the questions now, I'm going to ask you 5 rapid fire questions. Okay?
He's
prepared. You don't even know what I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
He's got his stats on.
Are you
the
ready?
Questions. He knows.
I've been psychoanalyzing you, Matt.
He's got a code that's just going through all of the quick fire questions in the last 50 whatever episodes.
I've been coding your podcast, boy.
Hey, who said we're opposition? Anyway, all right. First question: what is your last Google search?
Ooh.
RSS podcast.
It was Doncaster buses.
It was what?
It was first buses, like, first buses, the company. Yeah, it was them. South Yorkshire, Doncaster.
What non-existent job do you wish you existed?
Non-existent job.
That's a good one.
Farmer on Mars.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What object do you misplace or lose the most?
Keys.
Fair. I thought laptop.
Yeah.
Laptop with all the stats.
Keys or wallet. Do you know what? I've left my laptop at home 3 times. I've rocked up at work
Mate,
and be like, I don't have
I
my
can
laptop.
imagine like,
I turned up once with my breakfast, my lunch, and all my snacks, and no
Got
laptop.
the priorities straight.
Show where my
Yeah,
priorities
he's got
are.
his
Yeah,
4 lunch boxes with him, no laptop.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
shocker.
how do you cope with hardship? Yeah, don't ever try.
Speak to family.
Nice.
Probably. Yeah. Not you.
Matt's like, I haven't heard from you in a while.
Just get bullied. Just get laughed at.
That's what the
Finally,
that's the
what is
older
the
brother's
kindest
for.
thing someone's ever did for you or ever done for you?
Invite me on the
There you go.
podcast.
Oh,
Thank
there
you.
it
All
is.
right.
There
And
it
I
is.
didn't bully him into that one. All right, I'll give you a last one. What's a nice easy one?
So that wasn't the actual final question.
It was, but I want to give you a nice easy one just to answer because I'm asking you sort of interview questions. What is your deepest fear?
Not making you proud.
Okay. All right, there you go.
Nice.
We'll end it. I was trying to find.
That's good.
Awesome.
That's good. He's
There you go.
You're looking for a
he's playing
serious
the
answer
game. He's
or
playing
something.
the game, Matt.
You could say spiders or something.
Nothing's getting past Ben.
Well, spiders was actually the first thing that came
There
to
you go.
mind. But
Mine too. Spiders. I hate spiders.
I hate-
What about you, David?
My deepest fear? Gosh.
Your new camera falling off into the ocean.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I had a nightmare about somebody stealing it last night, actually. I did.
Wakes up.
when you start dreaming about stuff, it might actually be your
Yeah,
deepest fear.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can
It's-
imagine you waking up like this, taking pictures just to make sure it's still working.
Yeah.
Pops it back on the pillow.
Yeah, I sleep with it now just to be safe. No one's ripping it out of my hands. That's because I haven't gotten the insurance for it, which is just stupid. Like every day I'm like, I need to get this thing insured, and last night I had a dream that it got stolen, but I got it back. It was a wild dream. Like the guy the guy
You chased the
stole
guy.
it, right? And then I caught up to him. He was on like this moped with his buddy, and they were coming straight at me. And I like ran, like I like hockey shoulder checked the guys off of their like little scooter, and I was on top of the guy, like punching him to get my camera back. So it was violent.
That's a good talk,
Nice, man.
Yeah, got my
Yeah.
camera back. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, Ben, once again, it was lovely having you on. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And even I think those were the best quick fire questions ever.
Yeah, I think those are good.
Yeah, those, best quick fire answers ever. Yeah, and it was
thanks.
great hearing from you, and I hope everything's going well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah,
I really
appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right.
All right. And just to sign it off, make sure you listen to all of our episodes. Give Ben a little follow. Where can they find you if they want to find you? LinkedIn.
Ben R. Best on
In the data
Instagram.
analytics room.
Yeah.
I'm not huge on the social sides, but
You-
There you go.
yeah,
You
give me
gotta
a follow
do
if you want.
gotta do a little like day in the life of a placement analytics student for the.
It's
for
just
the
darkness
fans.
with one laptop
Maybe I'll
screen.
set up a TikTok just for
Yeah,
you
just
guys.
for us.
Yeah.
Just
Nice.
for us. Make one for us,
Yeah.
and we'll get it on the RSS pod feed.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, Ben, we're being serious. All right. Awesome.
Okay.
Cheers
All
for
right.
coming on.
Yeah.
See you later. This has been the RSS podcast.
Bye.
We're out.